He swept floors at a grocery store. Then he sold his app for $19 billion. Welcome to Story Studio 91. Jan Koum stood in line at the welfare office in California. The year was 1992. He was 16 years old. He was holding food stamps. His mother stood beside him. They had just arrived in America from Ukraine. They left everything behind to escape anti-Semitism and political persecution. They lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Mountain View. Jan's mother worked as a babysitter. Jan swept floors at a grocery store. They barely spoke English. They had no money, no connections, no hope. But Jan had something more valuable. He had hunger, not just for food. Hunger for a better life. Hunger to prove that coming to America meant something. Jan was born in 1976 in a small village outside Kiev, Ukraine. Life under Soviet rule was hard. His family lived in a tiny house with no hot water. No phone. Luxuries did not exist. Jan's father was a construction worker. His mother was a homemaker. They struggled to put food on the table. But the worst part was not the poverty. It was the fear. The Soviet government watched everything, listened to everything. Jan grew up understanding that privacy was a luxury, that saying the wrong thing could destroy your family. When Jan was 16, his mother made a desperate decision. She applied for asylum in the United States. They were Jewish in a country that persecuted Jews. They had to leave. Jan's father stayed behind, planning to join them later. He never did. Jan and his mother arrived in California with nothing. They did not know anyone. They did not know the language. They relied on government assistance to survive. Food stamps, social security, whatever help they could get. Jan hated it. He hated feeling dependent. He hated standing in welfare lines. He promised himself this would not be his life forever. Jan got a job sweeping floors at a grocery store. He worked after school. He sent money to his father in Ukraine. He taught himself English by watching MTV and listening to music. He was smart, really smart. He bought computer manuals from a used bookstore and taught himself programming. He stayed up all night reading code, learning how computers worked. He fell in love with technology. It made sense to him in a way nothing else did. When Jan was 18, he enrolled at San Jose State University to study computer science, but he dropped out. He could not afford it. Instead, he got a job as an infrastructure engineer at Ernst & Young. He was good at it. He understood systems. He understood security. Then in 1997, Jan applied for a job at Yahoo. He was 21 years old. Yahoo hired him as one of their first infrastructure engineers. Jan worked there for 9 years. He learned everything about building scalable systems, about privacy, about user experience. But Jan's personal life was falling apart. His mother was diagnosed with cancer. Jan took care of her while working full-time. In 2000, his mother died. Jan was devastated. A few years later, his father died too. Jan was alone in America. Both parents gone. No family. He felt lost. He questioned everything. He took time off from Yahoo to travel, to clear his head, to figure out what mattered. In 2007, Jan left Yahoo. He had saved some money. He wanted to do something on his own. He and his friend Brian Acton, also a former Yahoo employee, applied to work at Facebook. Both were rejected. Facebook did not want them. Jan was disappointed, but maybe it was the best thing that ever happened to him. In 2009, Jan bought an iPhone. He realized something. The App Store had just launched. It was going to change everything. Apps were the future. Jan had an idea. He wanted to create an app that let people communicate without being monitored, without being tracked. He remembered growing up in Ukraine. He remembered the fear of being watched. He wanted to build something that protected privacy. Something simple. Something everyone could use. Jan started building WhatsApp in his small apartment. He named it WhatsApp as a play on the phrase, "What's up?" The app was simple. No ads, no games, no nonsense, just messaging. Private, secure, fast. Jan launched it in 2009. At first, nobody used it. The app kept crashing. It was buggy. Jan almost gave up. But then Apple released push notifications. Jan updated WhatsApp to send alerts when messages arrived. Suddenly, people started using it. Word spread. The app grew organically. No advertising. No marketing. Just people telling other people. WhatsApp exploded. Millions of users. Then tens of millions. Then hundreds of millions. People around the world loved it. It worked on cheap phones. It used minimal data. It was perfect for developing countries where data was expensive. Jan and Brian ran the company with a tiny team. They refused to sell ads. They refused to compromise user privacy. They charged a tiny subscription fee instead. $1 per year. Most users were happy to pay it. By 2014, WhatsApp had over 450 million users. It was one of the most popular apps in the world. Then Facebook came calling. Mark Zuckerberg wanted to buy WhatsApp. Jan was hesitant. He did not want to sell, but Zuckerberg offered something Jan could not refuse. $19 billion. $19 billion. It was one of the largest tech acquisitions in history. Jan, the kid who swept floors and used food stamps, became a billionaire overnight. But the story gets better. Jan insisted on signing the acquisition papers at the old welfare office where he had stood in line as a teenager collecting food stamps. He wanted to remember where he came from. He wanted to honor his mother who had sacrificed everything to bring him to America. That moment was symbolic. The place that represented his lowest point became the place he signed the deal. That made him a billionaire. Jan stayed at Facebook for a few years, but eventually he left. He disagreed with Facebook's approach to user data and privacy. Jan had built WhatsApp to protect privacy. He could not compromise on that. He walked away from billions in unvested stock options. He chose his principles over money. That takes courage. Jan once said something powerful. I grew up in a country where the government spies on its citizens. I do not want to help create that. Those words defined WhatsApp. Privacy was not a feature. It was the foundation. Jan built a tool that gave people freedom. The freedom to communicate without fear. The freedom his family never had in Ukraine. Your past does not define your future. Jan stood in welfare lines. He swept floors. He used food stamps. But he refused to stay there. He taught himself to code. He worked relentlessly. He built something the world needed. And he became a billionaire. The welfare office became the place where he signed a $19 billion deal. What are you ashamed of in your past? What struggle are you hiding? What poverty are you embarrassed by? Stop hiding it. Use it. Jan went back to that welfare office on purpose. He did not run from his past. He honored it. Your struggle is your strength. Your poverty is your fuel. Your pain is your purpose. If this story inspired you, please like the video and subscribe to Story Studio 91. Share this with someone who came from nothing and thinks they cannot build something great. Remind them that the boy on food stamps built an app used by 2 billion people and sold it for $19 billion.